Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be. Thanks for joining us for this April TBC Power Hour. We'll give it another minute or so, see if a few people still jumping on the call. Um, Once the numbers start stabilizing, we'll get going on this. Okay, it looks like things are still picking up a little bit by little bit. Let's see, it's just after the hour. I think we can get going. Once again, good morning, everyone. Afternoon, evening, wherever you might be. We really appreciate you making time to join us for this Power Hour for April the 30th, TBC Power Hour Back to Basics Data Prep. So we're delving a little bit more into the civil construction side of things, but these days they say intertwined between us being civil and geospatial and everything. We're not trying to delineate anymore. It's just TBC, and we're going to work on the data prep side of things today. Um, Myself, Albert Willifier, I'm the technical product manager here at Trimble for Trimble Business Center. And joining me today will be Scott Bridges. Scott, if you would like to give a quick introduction.
Sure. Good morning, Albert. Thank you. I've been around with Trimble over 14 years, and this is year 30 plus. I quit counting after 30 in the civil software world. So glad to be here this morning, and thank you, everybody, for your valuable time.
Thanks, Scott. If you can jump ahead on the slides there, we'll
Sure.
see
Absolutely here.
our
There we go.
headshots over there. There we go. Just so you know that we are really who we say we are. And then agenda today, most of this would be live into TBC as a demo. Scott will take us through all the basic 101 things that we need to know about TBC and relating to data prep and how we would like to go about this. After that, we'll have a look at the Q&A. So if you are into the Q&A side, please use the Q&A option on your Zoom toolbar. Refrain from using the chat. The Q&A part actually gets registered, and we can see your email address for any questions we don't get to if it is not enough time. We will always be able to reach out to you after this webinar. The chat part does not get registered, so we can't follow up if you had a question in the chat. So please ensure that if you have any questions that you would like Scott or myself to answer, to put it in the Q&A part. Everyone in the audience will then be able to see it, and if we type an answer, you'll also be able to see it in there. So please use that for us. We appreciate it. And then that, I think, is that for the housekeeping part. Scott, over to you. If there's
Sure.
anything you want to add, go for it. Otherwise, let's jump into TBC.
Absolutely. Thank you, Albert. Can you see the Business Center screen okay right there?
You're good to go. Go for it.
Fantastic. Again, thank you, everybody, for your valuable time today. Being in the civil world more than the geo, as Albert said, we're really just becoming TBC for everybody out there. So thanks for your valuable time. And this is really going back to some of the basics and some of the roots of the software regarding just using Business Center, importing data. Really the name of the game when you're doing data prep applications, whether you're building a 3D model or whether you're doing takeoffs, is cleaning that data up. Even if you're designing a takeoff for a cut, fill, and quantity, you're still needing the data prep tools to get to that data, whether you're starting from PDF data or CAD data or other. So we're going to talk about that, and just really, we could do one file for the whole thing, but I'm a big fan of just opening up a couple of different files and talking about really a couple of different exercises for everybody on the phone. So you can just kind of see it from a couple of different ways and how we can use it. And maybe there's some ahas. And really my goal here over the next 40 minutes or so is everybody can leave with a couple of nuggets of, wow, that was really good and worth my time this morning. So as we begin, this is just launching Business Center right here. Out of the box, we just opened up Business Center to take a look at it. Where do we really go from here? You can start with File, New, and usually out of the box in Business Center, you've got some standard templates right here, such as U.S. Survey Foot or a metric as well. If I hit Open to that, you'll see the blank screen and a couple of things as far as getting around in the system. And again, I think this is fundamental in data prep for anything you're doing, and really fundamental in Business Center. How do you succeed? A couple of things. There's really a couple of ingredients, in my opinion, a couple of ingredients in the secret sauce of Business Center. One is your templates, another part is your ribbons, and another part is really setting up some categorization tools. If you take the time to do that, you're going to have great success in Business Center. Business Center is not complicated. It is very customizable. And here out of the box, you see all the choices open at the very top. So we're going to talk about thinning that down just to say, okay, we want to do data prep, whether it's data prep for takeoff or data prep for 3D models. Where do we go to do that? And I'll try to slow down this morning with the excitement to kind of go through some of these settings right here. So number one, multiple places to customize Business Center as we do this. So number one, you can go to the Support tab, you can go to the Options, and you can control your colors right here. Everybody sees a little different. Again, how do you have great success in Business Center? Maybe you struggle between oranges and reds and browns. Change your colors in your settings right here so they work with what you want. Also, change your cursor pixel size. Make it a little larger, such as like a 6 to 8 right here. If you've got a high resolution screen, it's easier to see. There's also, a lot of people miss it, there's a large icon item right here, which you get the large icons to show up. So a couple of things at the very beginning. You can show your quick commands at the top, or if you hit the very right, you can show them below. They're a little quicker to get to that way. So that's a couple of settings to start customizing. The next part of customizing is you can set your ribbon tab. If we click the Set Ribbon tab, we get to see our options right here. What do we want to do? If there's things that we do not use, we can turn those items off. And as we turn these tools off right here, you'll see that they start to disappear across the top. So we have different things that we can turn on and off depending on what we're trying to do, and our menu gets smaller at the top of the screen. The other thing we can look at as far as customizing is really our ribbons right here. So not only the tabs, but the ribbons. So another part of that, to really get your workflow, if there's things that you never ever use, I'm a big fan of turning those off. And again, one of the tips and tricks on that, if you have a ribbon and you right-click and you go into your Customize, just on the ribbon, right-click and Customize, we'll go in and do a few things just to show this correlation very quickly here. If I scroll down, you see at the very top of my screen, I have the Takeoff tab. On the far left, I have the Digitize options right here. Those show up right here under Customize. I've got Takeoff, I've got Digitize, and there's things I'm not going to do, such as talk to a digitizer. We can set these up and we can just hide those items. So we can turn around and hide the digitizer setup. We can also take an icon that we're going to use on a regular basis and we can make it a large icon. So this is the only one I'm going to show and do, and then you can move the order around. If we do that, before I hit OK, if you look at the top corner up here, the way it looks right now with this digitizer icon, when I hit OK, you see that it rearranges. So you can do that for every one of your tabs, every one of your ribbons, and rearrange it. The other thing, one of those secret sauce ingredients, is setting up your layers ahead of time. So right here out of the box, you would just have a few, such as zero and drill and points. If you want to do data prep, you want to have these built out. And a reason in the past that I used to do this early on in my TBC career is today maybe I felt like original ground, tomorrow I felt like existing ground, then maybe I felt like OG, and every day it was something different. Not how you succeed with coming up with data prep. You want to come up with a set of layers, and most professional data prep modelers out there, they have 100 or a couple of hundred layers that they use every day, so every file is identical. The layers for existing are the same, design are the same, and everything will work exactly the same every time you use the software. So if you would like to see how those settings work, here we'll go File and New, and here's a simple construction template I made. After this is over too, if you would like to have this construction template or a ribbon tab, feel free to reach back out to us. Albert's email will be up, and mine is as simple as my name, Scott_Bridges@Trimble.com. That's fine as well. But here's a template. We'll open it up, and immediately you'll see that we have the layers in place. So here's the layers for existing and design, length area, trenching, and roadway and reporting. So again, very simple. The other part to customize this is right-click on the ribbon. If you right-click on the top, you can customize the ribbon just like we did before. Once you've got that set up, we'll use Import, and here's one that I've created, just this construction ribbon. And if we do it and hit OK, you'll see that we have greatly streamlined our interface right here. So these are the main tools that I use over the last year when I've been working with a few customers and dealers. When I want to just do takeoff and data prep, I have it down to about 6 icons that I use. We can add a roadway if we need to, or utilities if we need to. Those are easy enough to turn on and off under the tab menu. So that's a little bit of the getting going here. Now, let's talk about some data and bringing data in and using it. First, success with Business Center and using it for any kind of data prep is having a wheeled mouse. With a wheel mouse, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can right-click to pan. So let me go grab a simple set of data to start with here. Here I'm going to take something as simple as a little DWG file right here. I picked it up years ago. It's a very small file, and I'm going to take it and drop it into the system. You can drag and drop to bring things in. Now, a couple of things within Business Center at the very beginning for data prep, you can drag and drop, or you can use the import option. Import is another choice. Either one gets you your data. There's a couple more settings always when you use the import. And again, if we're talking all the tools of the trade when we want to use data prep tools, the import will let me go in, and when I pick a file on the side of the screen over here, here's a DWG file on the right side of my list. There's a little double caret at the bottom. If you take a moment to open that, you'll see all your settings. These settings apply if you're using a PDF file. You can change the resolutions. If you're bringing in a CAD file, you can check your units. You can also add a prefix right here. So if I were to import 3 or 4 CAD files at once to work with, I could come in here and say File 1, 2, and 3, or Revision 1, 2, and 3. As I bring that CAD file in, you're going to see that information added to each layer. So some really good settings if you use the import options in TBC. So here we are, and I have dropped in a very simple CAD file. 101, what do we need to do with this data? If we look at our View Filter Manager, we have the Project Explorer and the View Filter Manager. Both of those I would keep open all the time. These two tabs for Project Explorer and View Filter Manager, they're also listed at the quick command icons. One looks a little bit like a funnel and one looks like a file folder. These two I would keep open for everything that you're doing. So we've imported a simple set of data. Now, if you notice the layer list, one thing is some layers are turned on and some are turned off by default. This is based off the AutoCAD settings that brought them in. So if they were turned off in AutoCAD, they're going to be turned off in the system automatically. So you will see the layers on versus off right here. I'll go ahead and take a moment and turn all the layers on. It looks like my screen is kind of blank almost. I've got a little data on the far left and a little data on the far right. How far apart is this information? If I hit the measure button and I go from and to, what I realize is this data, bringing in this simple DXF or DWG file, is over 2 million feet apart from each other. So odds are that data is not part of the same file. Some data could have been a 0, 0 or an insertion point. The data that I want to get to is on the far right side right here. And I'll take the time to zoom in and look at my data. So here's what I'm after. So again, there's data over 2 million feet away. What's the easiest way to manage that? In the past, original kind of CAD 101, you could kind of bite it off as an apple and delete, delete, delete. But here what we're going to do is just highlight the data that we want. If you highlight the data from left to right, it selects what's inside of your selection. If I go from right to left, it is a crossing select and gets everything else that it touches. So I picked the data that I would like to use. There's a great tool that you can use in TBC called invert selection. Invert selection will take the data that I have and it will flip it around and select everything else that exists in the entire file. By flipping that invert selection, you see that it's got data outside of it and further away. If you look at the bottom, you can tell how many items that was, 290, and I will hit delete. By hitting delete, it zooms in and gives us just the data that we want right here. So here's the data that we're after. You can also use another tool to start with for cleaning up data is under data prep. Data prep lets me go through and use project cleanup, and this is going to really wash through and clean up that whole file. But before I run this command, I want to take a moment and look at a few things. If we look on the left side of the screen, we can kind of see all the layer names. And if I keep scrolling down further and further and further, you see there's a tremendous amount of information right there. There's a lot of layers. Probably not data on all those layers, but we're not sure yet, so we can use data prep to clean those up right there. And project cleanup, we'll go through and we'll take this list of layers. I'm going to take everything here, and I want to remove the duplicate lines and the overlapping lines and the unprotected layers. That means the CAD data that was brought in, we're going to clean those up and remove that data. So let me hit apply. Let me do the entire project and say apply to that. And we'll go through and take a look. And 16 duplicate lines were removed. Good luck trying to find those that are duplicate. We can also remove vertices if our lines are extremely dense. That is a user choice depending on what you're trying to do from a modeling. We can join lines, but the big one to look at is there were over 600 layers with no data whatsoever. So we just cleaned up and removed those 600 layers with no data. So now we're down to just data on our particular file right here. One more thing to look at in this particular file before we move to kind of another exercise is the fact I'm a big fan of under View Filter Manager at the very top. If you look at the top, you've got a couple of extra choices, including Zoom Extents and Isolate. These are extremely valuable when you're working with your data. If I hit Zoom Extents and Isolate and start at the very, very beginning, that picks my very first layer. Again, Zoom is on and Isolate is on. By doing that, just using the down arrow on your keyboard will scroll through and let you see what's on each layer individually. So you may have something as simple as one piece of text or one line, but you can scroll through and see that data and look for what you're after, delete data, edit data, and manage data. So that's a couple of starting points right there from data prep, is to realize you can take a really big file, go through the project cleanup, and get rid of the empty layers. Also, click through your layers using your zoom and isolate to pick the data that you need right here. So that's exercise number one that I wanted to share. Now I want to take a minute and talk about bringing in some more PDF data and elevating some information. We'll take a few minutes and do that. Then we're going to get into a larger CAD file and we're going to do a pad and volume. We're going to see if we can get all that done in about 30 minutes right here. So let me hit File, New. And again, now I will use this template. So again, all the other settings are turned off. So here we are with a empty file yet again. So now you have a couple options. If we want to use the import option, we can use the import, or again, we can drag and drop. If you're working with any PDF data for any reason, if you're trying to match it together, if you want to match together a PDF to CAD to verify your information, if you want to stitch together multiple sheets, use the import option. A lot of people may not realize this, but by using the import, selecting a PDF, if we look at the very bottom in our settings right here, number one, we can change the resolution on the data. Here I've made it a 300. Also, you can select the page number. If you happen to have a PDF that you want to work with, and that PDF is in a large magnitude of 50 or 100 plus pages, there's no reason to bring all of that data in. You may just need a couple of sheets. Well, you can go through just like printer sections and say page 1-5 or page 1, 10, 20, however you would like to import that data. So here we'll import it. And really what I want to show here for just a few moments is the concept of managing your data and even data prep, even if you were doing takeoff for just a moment. So here we have a PDF file. First thing you would always do is scale it. If you bring in a CAD file, you're going to have that information already in the right coordinate system. Here we'll take this PDF, and I am going to click 2 points to scale it. Now, at this moment, I don't know if it's rastered or vectored. We're not going to go through a takeoff exercise. Actually, we're doing that 1 month from today, where we'll just go through and put in existing and design and do a cut fill calculation. But what we're going to do here is look under Project Explorer. Whether it was a CAD file or PDF or anything, we can see that we've imported data. We would see we've imported CAD data as well. But right here I've got a PDF. Just so you know as well, when you're working with any kind of PDF data, on the left side you'll see a V, or either it will be blank. A V means that it is vectored data. So vector data, something should exist and I can extract out of this to work with. So right here, I'm going to right-click on this data, and we're going to import the vector PDF data. So we'll go and import, and let's do what I want to do from a little data prep on this is just to show how to standardize the information and put existing on existing and design on design. You would use the same information for CAD data, and also you would use it for any kind of model building as well. So when we extracted that data, we see that we've got a lot of information on our screen right now. This just shows up under the native layers that it extracted. But what we want to do is take a peek at it, and here's how much data it extracted right here. So it pulled out this much data from that PDF without me having to do any digitizing. A couple little tricks. If I turn off the layers that I have created in my template, my existing and the design, nothing is on those yet. What we want to do briefly is use a standardized tool. This is a great place to start for any CAD data or PDF data where we want to put things on our particular layers, because again, if you change the name of existing every time or design every time, there's no consistency there, no way to win. So we really want to make sure everything's consistent. So if I click on one of these lines, if it came from a CAD file or any other source, I click on one, I would like to assign that to be existing contours, and it will move it to the existing contour layer. I can also pick lines one at a time or in groups. Here's another line. This needs to be design contours, and we can do things such as if I zoom in here and click one more spot, this would actually be a design building. So by moving those over, now we can turn off all the other data that exists, and we can just turn on the data that we want. There's the existing that's kind of messy at the moment. That will be a takeoff exercise in the future. Here's some of the design data, and let's turn back on that georeference image. So really, for this exercise from data prep, I just want to show a couple things. The name of the game from all data prep is turning 2D data into 3D data. That's what we have to get to, 2D to 3D. And there's a couple of tools that are available for you. So really all I want to work with this moment in this file for this exercise is just coming up with the elevations on this apron right here, just around the edge. So a couple of things we have to do. If I click one piece, we can always check properties. So if I click on an entity on the screen, I see that it is on a layer that I would like differently. I don't really want it on design contours. I want it on another layer, and it's broken into individual pieces. So how would we go through and clean this information up so we've got it where it's ready for us to use? It's a very simple process. I can click, and I can do this one of two ways. I can use Control and click each piece, or I can right-click and immediately join. Either way, I would like to do that. And here's where that thickness plays into your settings, that you can see the line is wider, and I would like to join that piece, and these other two pieces right here. So we'll join those together. So now that is joined into one entity. So I've got it joined, but now what I would like to do is change the layer of it. Instead of the contours, I want to turn that into a curb where it's supposed to be. and we will turn everything else off on the design right here. I'll turn everything off except design curb. So what we have on the screen now is one line that we can take a look at. Another great tool that's available if needed. Here's this line. I'll highlight it so you can kind of see it on the screen a little bit there. If a PDF is a challenge to look at sometimes, there's another couple of settings that people have missed as far as data prep goes, is if I have a PDF in the background, I can go into the properties of this PDF. One of the properties of the PDF is you can change the transparency. You can also change the visualization style. Here, I'll dim this PDF so it's a little darker so we can kind of see the work a little cleaner on our screen right here. At the moment, I don't know if this is 2D or 3D data. I do know it because I extracted it from a vectored PDF, but if you want to also know what it's 2D or 3D, under Display Options, under View Filter Manager, we can come in here and change this. So I could say if my data is not elevated, show it in an alternate color. And what it will do is show everything that has no elevation, in this case in a red, or pick any color that you would like, a yellow or another color. And I'll try to show that in just a couple of moments how we can do that. So, but let's go, how would we elevate a simple line on our screen? Number one, we can click it and we can go edit it. If you right click, edit is an option within your setting right here within TBC. So we'll go in and we'll right click and we'll say edit, and this lets us grab our information, and we're grabbing node to node. And this is really what I want to show for just a minute. Number one, which way does the line go? And if we look, we see a little crow's foot arrow on the screen. So this line is drawn in a clockwise direction. If we need it changed over to the other direction, we can simply reverse the line distance right here at the top of Edit Line String. But I'm going to grab the very first point, and that elevation should be, there's a 38 at the beginning of these. So this particular starting point right here, if we zoom in, let's make that 3818.48. That gives me a starting elevation of that particular line, 3818.48. If we go from here, the next point that I can give it, node to node or intersection to intersection, is down here. So if I assign that a value, that should be, again, 3816.77. So we've assigned two of those. But there's a couple things we're missing, and we're missing one in the beginning. We're going to have one that we're going to come up with and need at the end. What are some of the tools that we've got for this? Number one, we can also work in 3D view and see the data at the same time. So here I'll open up and see that we've got a piece of this line, and it only has an elevation at the beginning and second point. Let's go in, and how would I elevate where I don't have a point location? On the right side under the Edit Line String, so far everything I've done has been under the horizontal control. Horizontal lets me click point to point or node to node, basically, from vertice to vertice right here. But if I go to the vertical tab, if you notice in the Edit Line String, there's a horizontal and a vertical. If I go to the vertical option, it is letting me rubber band, as you can see on my screen, anywhere that we're working, and I can come right here, and we could zoom in extremely tight if we wanted to, and at that particular point, I need a 3818.39. That gives me a different control, which you can see in the 3D view, and you can also see from the plan view. Then we can come in and add another node. Right here, I'm going to click at this spot and make it 3816.03, and so on and so forth. So this lets me go around and add specific points anywhere I would like on a line right here. So that's really the exercise I want to show specifically here, that you can interact with a PDF file, you can extract data from the PDF, or you can tie a PDF to a CAD. Either one of that can be done right here, but as you go to edit a line, not only can you edit it at a point-to-point, node-to-node mindset, you can also, anywhere along the line, edit by going into the vertical tab. So a very key part in doing any kind of data prep tool right there. So I'll pause with that one. The next exercise is let's just talk about how we would elevate a lot of data and how we would quickly put a pad on from a volume standpoint. So we'll come in here and do one more. Let's go File, New, and I'll use my same template. And as you see, I have to move very little between menus by having a custom template. So by having a simple template right here, everything I get to do, I get to stay in one or two menus, and I don't have to bounce around from place to place. So it makes it much easier to work with staying in a small spot right here. So let's go through a exercise on bringing in some data, and let's turn a large set of data from 2D to 3D so we can see how we're working right here. And I'll bounce around between my screens, black and white, depending on what you're doing. This is a setting at the bottom that you've got access to right here, so you can see what we're working with. So here we've got a set of contours. You can see they have elevation labels, but at the moment we don't know if they are 2D versus 3D. We don't have that information. So a couple of things we can do. We can click a line and right-click and go into Properties. So if I click this line and right-click, I notice there is no elevation in the geometry section. So maybe I just picked the wrong line. Maybe it's an anomaly. So if I go to pick another line, we see also it has no elevation. I'll pick one more, and no elevation. So all of a sudden I realize, even though this is a labeled file, there's no elevation on it. So now we need all the data prep tools to convert this from a 2D to a 3D and get a file elevated so we can use it for anything we would like to do. What order would we do? How would we manage this information? Well, first, I would go through the same process on data prep here, and I would standardize my data. I would pick this information on the screen, and I would turn it into my design contours. I can pick the other information, and I can turn that into design contours. I can turn these labels into design contours. I can move things wherever I would like to work with that data right there. So let me actually take this, and I'll take this text right here, and we'll move those to design text, actually. There we go. So we've got these where we've moved them over to whatever layer we would like. We can turn everything else off. We still have two-dimensional data. Now we want to go through the data prep process of contours by label. Right here is the command, contours by label. First we pick by layer. So if we pick by layer, I select all my contours and all my labels right here. By picking those, it's going to say, do you want to elevate? The tool we're using again is data prep, and we're doing contours by label. We pick our lines, we pick them by layer, we pick the text, and we want to apply. And it immediately elevated 107 lines for me automatically. So it uses the labels, and it does it. But at the moment, it's tricky to see what's 2D versus 3D. I can't really see that at the moment. I'm not sure which one is 2D or 3D. So let me look at it a couple of different ways. Let me turn on a 3D view and show this information. And we can see this is my plan view. And if we turn it, we can see the 3D. So that's the 107 lines that we've just elevated on our surface right there. But now I'm not sure which ones we've elevated or we haven't. We can go back to the display options under View Filter Manager and show in an alternate color. And it shows now we see red lines. These represent, if red happens to be the color that you want or need or the native layer, you could change it to something different right there. If you wanted to pick a totally different color, you have access to do that as well. So here we have changed it to yellow in this example just to show something different. And now we want to elevate the rest of the data along here. What are some of those tools? Under Data Prep, we've got the ability to do contours by crossing. So first thing we did is by label. Now we're doing by crossing. By crossing and elevating, we need at least two known elevated lines. So the blue ones are elevated. I will strike a line across here, and it will elevate all those. We just immediately elevated 16 contours. If I don't like the snaps on or off, that is also an option at the bottom. We have a snap choice right here to turn data on and off. So we can start to see what's elevated and what's not. So we're going to train this file, TBC, we're going to train it by going through and how quickly can we elevate the data. A couple of things you want to do, you don't want to strike along the text because it would elevate the text. It could be in the wrong spot. And you don't want to just swipe a line from one end to the other because you may have an area that goes up or down, such as right here. So we'll go through, lots of thumbs up right there. So great. So there we go. We've got some elevated data. Now what do we want to do if we want to get rid of the two-dimensional data? If we have extra data that we don't want or don't need or it's not a part of this file, we can actually go through and take a look and say, okay, this is all the data that I'm after right here. It will go through and select that data. If there's anything that we missed right here in 3D, I'm going to elevate in 3D, and I'm going to select in 3D over here, and it selects 7 entities, 7 items that did not have elevation. We could either elevate those, or in this case, for an example, I'll just delete them. So because I took a moment, and again, back to some key features, because I took a moment and put these on a known layer, I move them over to existing contours. That's where these are located. If we click and right-click and check properties, these are listed on existing or design. I guess I put these on design contours. That's perfectly fine. But we could put them on existing or design. And by doing that, we have a tool where you can just automatically hit build surface. By hitting the build surface, it doesn't have a boundary yet, but build surface will automatically create that surface without me having to go in there and select the data, going into surface and saying create a surface. The reason we can do that is by having these layers, using the categorize tool right here at the top, the categorize tool. If I have drawn things on the existing layers on the original, it's going to use any of these to build that surface. If I've drawn anything on these particular layers here called design, it will use any of those layers to also create a surface. So if I take the time to categorize my information, existing in design or original in design, and put it on there, when I hit build, it will use all of these layers to automatically create that surface. A lot quicker process than grabbing my data and turning around and going into surface and create a surface, and that gives us that information very quickly right there. So you can turn around and see what we've created. So here we are with a surface. I can turn that information off so that we're not looking at it. And now we've got some lines to work with. Let's look at a couple of settings on here if we go through and take a moment to look at a few more things in detail. Here, if we click this line, you see that it has created that data right here in specific increments right here. If I click on this line string right here, let me go into properties. We see that we've gone through and we have created it based on the data that exists. What if we need a tighter control for that design? What if that design needs a much tighter control? Maybe it's the edge of pavement, maybe it's the bottom of a building or something, and we need tighter control right there. What you can do is you can say, yes, let's override the segment length of that, and I could make it a 1 foot if I wanted to. And if I made it extremely tight and turned around and rebuilt that surface, what you're going to see is that particular line now has a much tighter densification control on our site right there for a tighter surface if we need to for the feel. So we didn't have to go through and change any overall settings in the software. We can just go and override the segment length of a particular line, and when it rebuilds it, we're going to have that tighter control right there. So that's a couple of other tools. Let's take just a couple more minutes and show you a few more features right here, and we'll just use this site to do it. Let's say we need to do some designing. We can come in here and under my CAD tool, I want to create a rectangle, and I will put it on a design layer. I'll put it on the design building. What elevation do I want? If I just pick somewhere in the middle of my contours right here, it grabs that elevation. But TBC always does the math as well in the background. So right there is a 1050. If by chance I needed it to be something else, I could say plus 2.5, and it will add that to come up with my new number. so your math is available. And also, if I click a location on the screen, if I know some design tools to where, okay, I have a starting point, but I need to use a certain size. I need to use a 100 by 200, anything that I would like specifically right here. If I have my known point to begin, my corner 2 over here, I just enter that information. I could enter at 125 space at 200. I would like to go from my starting point up a 125 over 200. Hit the enter button, creates that automatically for me. So we can use the at space at to come up with an exact location right here. So now that we've got that, what else can we do from a designing standpoint? Well, I would like to tie this pad to my surface is what I would like to do. How is that going to interact? How will that information tie together? That's under our surface tools. So if we're creating these surfaces for machine control or takeoff or anything else, I would like to create a surface tie. Basically, I would like to use this line that I created right here. I would like to tie it to my finished design. That's the surface that I built right here. So I'm going to tie it to finished design. I'm going to use this particular line. Do I want to tie on the inside or outside or the left or the right? I'm going to click on the outside. I'd like a tie point at least every 5 feet. If I'm in a cut area, maybe I want a 3-to-1 slope. If I'm in a fill area, maybe I want a 2-to-1 slope. So you can change these settings and hit apply, and it generates how these two surfaces will interact right there. So if we're trying to build a file for the design applications, how do these two touch base? How do they talk together? That's how it works. But not only can you do this, if you're into design build, as many people are, you also have a couple extra tools right here where we can click this. And if I right-click in Business Center, you should know some of the basic tools right here. If I right-click in Business Center, it gives me the items that I can do to that particular entity. If I click a line and right-click, I'm allowed to edit, break, join, offset. If I click an image, it gives me my choices right here. But a little Easter egg, if I click on an entity, here I'll click on that line again. If I use my Shift key and right-click, again, you click on an entity in TBC, you use Shift and you right-click, it brings up an Easter egg on a whole nother set of commands you have access to right here. I can also copy and move and scale and rotate many other things that aren't there just by using your standard right-click. So if I would like to move this entity, maybe I have some known boundaries that I need to work with, I'm going to come in here, and if I click, it allows me to see how these two surfaces interact. So we can see how they would interact, how the cuts and fills would take place, and we can see that information directly on TBC. So there we are, and we've moved this to a new location. I can now create that into another surface if I would like. If I would like to take this and this, what I want to do is create a surface out of this, and we'll make that a pad. So I'll turn that into a quick pad, and now we have a pad and our other surface, or I called it finish. We can slice this. A couple of tools right here. Couple of good little Home Depot Pro tricks right here. If I take two surfaces and I use my surface slicer, it lets me cross between the two. If you click the first one and use your control key, if I hold control down, it lets me do multiple points from a surface slicer right here. So holding control down lets me do more than just clicking from A to B. I can click anywhere I want to get that information. Another item to notice is we have very thick lines that show up in our surface slicer right here. The thickness of my surface slicer is actually dependent upon going into Layer Manager, and whatever we've got our original layer 0 set at. If we look at our layer 0 in our Layer Manager, the thickness that we assign the line weight of layer 0 is the thickness that we get using the surface slicer. So I don't ever do anything on layer 0. I don't draw on it, but by changing that thickness allows you to see thicker lines created over here. So you get some extra information while you're looking at it right there. So that's a couple of the tools, surface slicer, and then we could quickly finish if we just needed a quick volume on this to look at and we wanted some information. I could come in here and I could do just a quick earthwork summary. And sorry, let's do a earthwork report, actually from a volume standpoint, a surface to surface, and I could compare my finish to this pad, and we could say okay, and I could get a quick surface volume on here on how much cut and how much fill, giving me my import, export, or deficit or excess. So we can do a quick report using this information. And several more things. From a designing standpoint, another tool that I think is very handy here, I'll turn all of this off so we can just see pretty much this original site again for just a moment. I'll wrap up. I could talk all day, so I'll try to find a landing place here in just a moment. But another tool, if you take a look at this surface and you also see this surface from 3D view, here's this original surface. You can click on it. You can see it. We can look at the details on it by seeing the triangulation. Another couple of things, if we go into the properties, not only can we see the triangulation of this surface, but there's another tool if you're into the designing, into the modeling, if you have to do a parking lot, if you have to do something where slopes are critical so you don't have flooding or set up bird baths for sloped areas. You can also look under your properties. If you go down to your 3D view, there are some shading areas that you can change, but let's look right here at the shade by slope range, right at the very beginning. I can say yes to shade by slope range, and I could say I'd like to know everything between 0 and 5%. And it will quickly highlight everything between 0 and 5%. If I've got to find those areas to make sure I don't have flooding, to make sure it's not too flat, those can easily be seen in 3D view or plan view by going in and changing those surface settings right there. So a couple more tools from the designing standpoint. So as I kind of land the plane here this morning on a few things, just what have we talked about? Really from a designing standpoint, you can import CAD data. You can right-click on that CAD data and you can elevate it just by changing the elevation. You can also use all of the data prep tools to set lines, to change them from 2D to 3D. You can also label using labels, and you can also change a line with multiple elevations by going into the horizontal and the vertical control. Those are a few things. One last thing, this has all been site work. There are also people that do plenty of corridor work. Some people don't realize the tools that are built in TBC from the corridor standpoint. I'm just going to use the same screen. I'm just going to slide over and show about 90 more seconds, and we'll land right there. Just in case you're a corridor person and I need to do CAD work, I'm going to come in and do a line string. So if I go in to do a line string, and I would come up with a name for it. Maybe this is alignment 1, and I would come up for what layer would I like to put it on. An easy layer for a lot of this work is I have alignments. One part of my template right here. I'll say okay to that. And what's step 101 for just creating geometry in TBC? Number 1, what is my first coordinate? I could pick a point, or I could give it its known northing and easting, whatever that might be. And now a lot of people do not realize you can actually go through and enter elevations and northing and eastings if you want, all at the same time right here. So let me undo that real quick, and let me say I'm going to put a coordinate that's going to start at elevation 475, and it's going to be right here. So there's my first point. I'd like to enter another one now, but I can enter for my coordinate box right here. I can enter a north 45 degrees east, put a space bar, and enter 300 feet. So right here from that first point, I'm going to now go north 45 east, 300 feet, hit the enter button, and it creates that second point. I could go from there north 90 east if I wanted to, and I could say I'd like to go 200 feet and enter that. All your coordinate geometry is built right inside of TBC while you're working right here. If you know the elevation of your final point, you can enter that, and you can finish this up with going back and editing it again you could take these that are straight points and you could change them from straight points, and you could put arc values in here. Here we'll put in a 50-foot radius. Here I'll change this straight right here. We'll go in and change it from a straight. I'll put a 75 radius in here, and this last one we'll change it to a arc, and I will make it 35 and hit enter. So that lets you see not only from data prep can you put in 2D data, convert it to 3D data, turn around and create surfaces, either use surface, create surface, or use the settings under your categorize and put data on existing and design, and you can use the build surface tools, but you can also edit the data prep of the surface by controlling the triangulation, the densification of your surface, and you can tie together different surfaces and run volumes. Again, just a few of the highlights of TBC in the background. Many, many more to go. And Albert, I'll pause right there. And I appreciate everybody's valuable time and hope this is a good little tutorial on just some of the features that exist. We're about an inch deep into some of the design tools and ability built within TBC.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate that. We'll quickly run through some of the Q&A questions that came in here.
Sure.
First question was, how do you save your layer setup that you created?
Sure. If you've built a layer manager or where you've gone in and built all your layers, the best thing to do is once you've built out your layers is then you can go File, Save as Template. That's an easy way to do it right there. You can also save it to your profile. If I hit Save As, you can set it as default, and I could save it as a template right here just in Business Center, or I can use my TID and save it to a Trimble profile so it's on the cloud and the web that I can use. Another great point of that is if I add 5 new layers for some reason, say I come in and build 5 new layers and I've got these that I've created right here. A lot of people miss this. I missed this for years, but let's say I build a template and I've been working with it for a few days and I have a job and I've added several more things. Take the new layers that you've built, highlight them in Layer Manager, use the export at the bottom. That's a little button everybody misses. Use the export. It will export just those layers. Open back up your template that you've created. Use the import. You can import those layers into your template and resave it as a new template. So anything you add, grab them, export those layers, put them back in your template.
Thanks for that one, Scott.
Sure.
Somebody just asking for the data sets and that layer setup and stuff you had. So if you want to reach out to Scott, it's scott_bridges@trimble.com. So if you're interested in the layer setup he has, the template files and everything, Scott is more than happy to help you out with that. So please send him a mail and he'll look at that for you.
Very good.
I think that's, is there possibility from IFC files, data create surfaces? So yes, we have enhanced the IFC files a lot. So you can actually import an IFC file, and if it's a surface, TBC will be able to read it. We've also added in the latest release, create IFC from any CAD or surface entity in the moment in TBC. So you can even now export IFCs from a surface or a CAD entity that you select in TBC. So you will find that, just got to remember where in the tab it is again. I think it's under CAD commands, if I can remember correctly. I'll just have to double check that. Oh, you can hit F12 there for Scott, and we can find it if we need to. But yes, there is an option, and IFC models is supported in TBC. You can definitely import them, being surfaces or not. Create line, no, not that one. I'll have to go look for it. I don't have my TBC app, but there's definitely a command you will be able to find it to add that. I see we're almost done with time. There is 1 or 2 things. I did pick up somebody asking a surface manager. So that is something we are discussing at the moment. I think the biggest question we have, and if anybody wants to reach out to us, is what kind of groups would you like to see for a surface manager? Is it just design surfaces, existing whatever the case may be, or is it on a weekly basis, or how do would you like to see that Surface Manager operate? Because there's a lot of people that will have a lot of different ways on how that should operate. So any inputs that you can give us, that'll be great. And we can definitely look at that, as it has been something that's came up quite a bit. I think that's it for me. Quickly go if there's anything. Andrea just asking how you type in coordinates when creating line strings. So if you just want to quickly do that again, Scott, just to show how you
Sure.
can type in your coordinates.
Absolutely. If you're under CAD or anywhere that you can access the line string command, so here's the line string command. You can pick a name, you can pick a layer, but it will open up and prompt you for a coordinate location and an elevation. So from a coordinate, let me turn that screen right there. From a coordinate standpoint and elevation, if I know my beginning elevation, such as 100, and if I know what my first coordinate is, I just pick a location. So here is my first coordinate, whatever that northing and easting is. From there, the coordinate that you enter, you can do any of your geometry, north 45 east, coordinate geometry, north 0. I can also give it a space, so I give it in, or south, so in 45E space distance. So right here, north 45E 200 will give me that particular line. If I want to go north 90 east, there's my N 90E, no spaces. I give it a space, and I give it a distance. So right here's N 90E space 125, and I hit enter right there. That's how I can enter my coordinate geometry right in the coordinate box after I've entered. The one secret in there is make sure the auto prompt advance is on, which you only have to do it once and it will stay on forevermore in your system. On the elevation, turn on the auto prompt, and you'll see it is highlighted in a blue by doing that. That lets you move ahead with your coordinates as you enter those.
Thank you so much for that, Scott. There is a few more questions here. Guys, just running out of time. We just want to get back to one or two other things, but we will have a report of all these questions. I will forward them on to Scott, and he can look through them. He'll reach out and answer them. And if there's anything that we need to get our support team to help out with, we'll pass that on to them as well. Any of the suggestions, like the Surface Manager and one or two other things, there was one for a power hour for contractors that we can definitely look in as well. Thank you for those suggestions. We'll dot them down, and we'll see if we can help you out and generating that information for you. Scott, if we can just go back to the presentation quickly. I just want to jump onto the resources. So if you're looking for anything TBC related.
Very quickly. Hang on, I'm grabbing it here for you.
Oh, good.
Let me pull it up. Yep, no problem. And let me pull it over here, and pardon me, I will show it all right here, and I will skip to the right there.
Resources, there we go. So there is the landing page for Trimble Business Center. You can see you can download the current version, and if you want to try out TBC and you want to have a 30-day trial license, that's a subscription license that you can get for 30 days. That button just below the download current version is where you can go for that, and then you'll have full access to all the modules in TBC. So if there's anything specific you're interested in and you want to test it out, if you haven't done a 30-day subscription trial license yet, by all means use that, and you can have a look at all the modules in TBC if there's something specific you're interested in for 30 days. As you can see, I highlighted there the power hour in the support tab. If you're looking for any of the power hours, this one will probably be uploaded in the next 3 or 4 days onto that webpage. All the other power hours we have done previously, I think we started in 2016. All of them are available in there. So please have a look and go view them there if you're interested. A quick one on just next to the power hour, the e-learning material. So there you can go, and if you're interested in learning any of the workflows, even data prep, as Scott has just done, there you will find those workflows, and a virtual machine will be spun up for you. So you don't have to have a TBC license. You don't have to worry about the data. That virtual machine environment will give you access to everything that you need. And for 30 days, you can actually test out that workflow, run it in that virtual machine, and get yourself up to speed so you don't have to worry about the TBC license or taking away a production machine from anybody if you want to learn a little bit more about TBC. Last one quickly is just the YouTube channel. There's also some great information on quick little tips, 5 to 10 minute videos to show you a specific workflow, settings, what is important, what not. So have a look there as well if you're into that kind of content. And the last one is right at the bottom, that TBC resource PDF. That is updated on a monthly basis, and that has anything and everything related to TBC in there. So if you're looking for power hours, tutorials, videos, anything that you need for TBC, that resource is a great way to do it. If you have any questions, you want to reach out to me, my email address is up there. There's just the underscore between my first name and last name at trimble.com, and the same for Scott is Scott_Bridges at trimble.com. So please do reach out to us. We'll accommodate as much as we can when you reach out to us, and we will see how we can help you with that. Scott, any last thing from your side?
No, there were hundreds on the call. So for everybody on the call, thank you for your valuable time. I hope it was beneficial for everyone. And again, thank you for your investment in Trimble. And please stay in touch with us so that we can continue to make your production more valuable in all your businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And just a quick note, next month we'll have Scott again and we'll delve into the basics of takeoff. So if you're interested in following along and following up with the data prep, what goes into takeoff, please join us for the May Power Hour where we'll look at takeoff. Scott, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And hope everybody has a good morning or afternoon wherever you might be. As Scott said, thank you for your time. We appreciate it and hope to see you next month for the next call. Appreciate it. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great day. Thank you all.